We're the way that for no, he doesn't need much. Yeah.
It's hard to do the same.
But there was one more.
Good evening. Welcome to this meeting of Westminster Mayor and Common Council. Council meets here at City Hall on second and fourth Mondays of every month. Please note that council meetings, although open to the public here at City Hall, are also available and streamed live on the city's YouTube page, as well as the Community Media Center channel and website. Now we'll begin as we do every meeting with the pledge of the flag, followed by one of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. As a courtesy to everyone here present tonight, if you have a cell phone or some other electronic device that might disrupt the meeting, please silence it. Copies of tonight's agenda and the entire information packet the council will be using are available online. And there are, I think, physical copies there in the front of the room for anybody who might be able. Now move on to approval of the minutes. We have minutes from the special meeting of the mayor and council on July 6th, the meeting of the mayor and common council on July 10th, and a special meeting of the mayor and council on July 17th. We have a motion to approve the minutes. Motion to approve. With a motion by Mr. Bayhoff, is there a second? Second. There's a second by Mr. Hoff. And I'll just note that the corrections that Mr. Hoff had noted have already been made in what you have before you. That all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it, the ayes have it, and the minutes are approved. We have 6 items on the consent calendar. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved, Mr. President.
There's a motion by Mr. Kowalski. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Ms. Gilbert. All those in favor of approving the consent calendar, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it, the ayes have it. Consent calendar is approved.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. President. I just want to start by saying that Monday a week ago, everyone is aware that we were hit by a catastrophic event that came through Westminster and took down numerous poles along 140. And BG&E finished the repairs and it's open today. Before an entire week. It was nothing short of a Herculean task, I think, for everyone that was involved. At the peak of the event, there were over 1,100 workers from BG&E and cooperating utilities on the site on 140. Over 500 of those workers were from out of state, from a lot of them from Chicago and Kentucky as well. And they were wrapping up, the out-of-town folks were wrapping up their work and heading out on Thursday, and the remaining BG&E crews stayed around and finished the work until today. They set up generators to run the businesses on 140 until they were able to restore full power, which was today. So a lot of those businesses were able to open even on that temporary power for the week. If you could gain access to them off of 140. I want to express my gratitude to our governor, lieutenant governor, the cabinet secretaries that came into Westminster on Tuesday morning, our commissioners, Sheriff DeWeese and his department, the state police, our own Westminster Police Department that I was in contact with quite a bit, as some of the businesses along 140 reached out to me, especially the veterinary clinic, and we found they also board animals and there was no access to their business. But we were able to find a way through BG&E and the Westminster Police Department to get them an alternative access to their business during that time. And I know that they reopened today, as well as some of the businesses in the plaza where PetSmart is. And so I'm just incredibly grateful for all the work that was done. I think the coordination between the organizations involved in that was just phenomenal. There were open lines of communication as to what was being done. I was kept updated throughout the whole event. Many times by our city administrator, sometimes from BG&E that was working on site, and they got us up and running along 140, which is fantastic. Within the city, I'm incredibly grateful that no one was killed. It could have been much worse than it was. We can do without power for a week. And within the city, the streets department, we have the best streets department, I think, of any municipality in Westminster. They were out immediately, helping with trees. They were picking up brush all week. So residents didn't have to call in and make a special request to have brush and limbs picked up. They were right on top of it. The building was slightly damaged in the storm that came through. And even working with that, they were still able to get the job done and be out there. So, as I talk to businesses in town, I talked to a lot of businesses on Main Street on Tuesday and Wednesday, just checking in, and they were very grateful for the support from the city at all levels for that. I know some of the businesses on Main Street told me that they had one of their best weeks ever because people had lost power at home, and so they were going out to eat a lot. So I think our restaurants were busy that week. But I'm just grateful to see everything up and running. And I also just wanted to mention that we have the best residents in Westminster as well. When I went to the BG&E Command Center on Friday, they had a whole table of food that residents had brought them over the week. The peach cake from Genie Birds was totally gone by the time I got there, but they had plenty of other food there, and they said they were just overwhelmed by the amount of support that the residents would show. They would just come up to the command center with sandwiches, with pizzas, whatever could be distributed to the workers that were there. And I know a couple of our businesses, our local businesses, also took items to our streets department to thank them for all the work that they were doing as well. And I thank everyone for their patience. I know I'm not a commuter, luckily, but if you commuted through Westminster the last week, I know it was very shortly after that gas main had been punctured, right? And so we had a shutdown for 2 or 3 days with the gas main that caused some detours. And then we had a week of a whole bunch of folks coming through downtown or out around the back of Target. But I want to say thank you for your patience. And we're up and running fully as of this afternoon. And I'm going to end it. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good. Move on now to, and yeah, it was amazing. The mayor's behalf, since he was out of town briefly, I attended the press conference on behalf of the city with the governor and the county and the other state officials. And, we'll never forget the governor's remark that that night, despite the fact that people were trapped in their cars beneath the poles and the wires, BG was on the scene quickly. State police, the city police, the county sheriffs, everybody was there helping out, and everybody slept in their own bed that night.
Yes.
Just an amazing thing.
And to add to that, Jamie Barnett, who was leading the command post of BG&E for the repairs, said actually it was so lucky that they were able to keep those folks in their cars. When the power wires fell in their cars, he said there was actually an employee of BG&E that he was on the phone with, who was walking out of Shoppers, shortly after when this had come through and the poles were, he saw the poles go down. And one of the first things the employee did was run over and tell people to remain in their cars and not get out of their cars. And to that end too, Winters Mill High School served as the reunion point for those individuals from their cars. And so thanks to CCPS and Michael Brown, the principal of Winters Mill High School, for offering that story for that.
Thank you, Mayor. Move on now to reports for standing committees. Liaison to the Arts Council, Mr. Day.
Thank you. We continue to work on the strategic plan, which is critical in our funding relationship with the Maryland State Arts Council. We're looking forward to bringing forward the mural initiative. Want to bring it before the Mayor and Council, have them take a look at it, and make sure everything's okay. It's in great shape. But we've got a large grant from the Maryland State Arts Council, and we're looking forward to bringing that forward. I think that'll make a big difference now. That's my report. Thank you.
Right, thank you. We'll look forward to seeing that. Public art is a valuable thing to have in the
Yeah.
community, but
Right.
also something that we've got to take a look at before it goes.
Different.
Economic and Community Development Committee, Mr. Hop.
Mr. President, I'll just note that the past several months, we have been working on updating our water sewer allocation policy. One of the fruits of that is under our ordinance and resolutions tonight. There'll be some other things coming up related to that over the next couple of meetings. And we are going to be now relooking at our rental licensing program probably over the next several months as well. That's it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hop. I have nothing to share. Finance Committee, we have a meeting coming, and Personnel Committee, the same, nothing to report. Public Safety, Mr. Kavachi.
Thanks, Mr. President. During the week of July 10th through 14th, several members of the police department participated in an annual Camp Cops public outreach event at the Carroll County Ag Center or Ag Farm property. This event is designed to bring better understanding of law enforcement to the youth of Carroll County while working in an atmosphere of a police academy. And from what I understand, the kids had a lot of fun at it. They learned some things. So I think it's a great public relations thing you guys do, Chief. On July 16th, Chief Ledwell and Deputy Chief Price attended the quarterly Carroll County Chiefs meetings to collaborate with fellow law enforcement leaders regarding current public safety matters. I know that our chief is certainly someone that all the departments look to for a lot of leadership when it comes to things. We've been out first on all sorts of initiatives here in the city. And I know that the other agencies certainly look to our chief in terms of, some of the things that he's doing leadership wise. So I'm sure it's a good opportunity for you to impart some of your knowledge and things that you've learned here being out in front a lot. On July 25th, several members of the Westminster Police Department participated in an active assailant training exercise along with other Carroll County public safety agencies and Carroll County Public Schools personnel. The exercise was held at Winters Mill High School and Cranberry Station Elementary School. On August 1st, members of the police department and city elected officials participated in the 40th annual National Night Out event in Westminster. There were 8 community-sponsored sites this year. It's a great opportunity for the community members to get to know their local police and their fellow neighbors during a fun event designed to promote crime prevention awareness. On August 2nd, Maryland certified police officer Dana Jackson was sworn in as Westminster's newest police officer. Officer Jackson has several years of municipal policing experience in Ocean City, Maryland. So he'll be well adept to deal with issues that we have down under when they probably right. On August 8th, there's a scheduled shop with the Cop Back to School outreach event was canceled due to the severe weather event that hit Westminster that we already discussed. Staff from the Shepherd staff delivered school supplies directly to families in need this year. So that was great that was able to, they were still able to get the stuff even though the event was canceled. And just echoing what the mayor said, I know when it comes to public safety, our police were point on a lot of what was going on. While 140, I think primary responsibility probably is the state police. Right, Chief, they take lead on that. I know that our folks were very heavily involved and active in helping keep those folks safe that were out there. So very grateful for that. That's all I have, Mr. President.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Kawaki. Public Works, Ms. Gilbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm gonna follow up a little bit from the mayor's comments on the storm because I obtained some really interesting data that goes into great detail about the storm and how much service that and a lot of the work that really went into restoring everyone's power and restoring actually traffic back to normal around Westminster. So for our Westminster Public Works Department, the Streets Department had to close 19 intersections, and that did not include Route 140 due to the downed trees. All intersections obviously are now open as of today. City incurred damage to the roof of the Streets Department, as the mayor mentioned. The Streets Department received 65 calls for brush collection and collected 25 tons of brush as of the 11th of August and had 254 hours of overtime. As far as the BGE, there was 3,000 BGE employees here in Westminster, along with 1,700 contractors and mutual assistance personnel who completed over 1,500 repair jobs, and that was within the county. They replaced 200,000 feet of wire and cable, equivalent to 550 football fields. That's a lot. They replaced 71 distribution transformers, installed 15,000 electric distribution infrastructure materials that included wire and cable, and fielded 170,000 calls in Carroll. And served 17,000 meals. That's a lot. So that was pretty impressive. I wanted to make a point of that in the Public Works report. The water main replacement will begin with a mobilization on September 12th and 13th, starting at the Longwell lot, and all the work will proceed up to Pennsylvania Avenue. There are 8 phases with the water main replacement, and it should end hopefully around June of 2024. There will be a mayor's meeting, August 28th at 5:30. Am I correct on that? Okay. Regarding some information regarding the water main replacement. And the clock tower is slated to be completed by September 15th. So just as we are finishing one project, we are going to be starting another one. Followed by a grand Back to the Future style opening on October 21st. And more information on that will follow shortly. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Ms. Gilbert. And would you also please do the Recreational Parks Committee?
I sure will. So many people have noticed, I know I've received calls, I'm sure folks here have received some calls that the Wakefield Conference Center, there's some activity going on over there and fencing going on. So the design meeting number 2 is completed with Wickersham, and we'll be finalizing the pavilion project at Wakefield. There will be another mayor's meeting to inform the residents of what's taking place in the upcoming weeks about the community project. That date has not been set, so we'll apprise everybody of that when that takes place. Pool update, the learning lap pool in the lagoon concrete is being poured right now, and everything is on target, including, I believe, the price. I think we're kind of right in the ballpark for everything on that. Grand reopening, May of 24 is slated. The mural project that Councilman Dayhoff has mentioned is moving forward in collaboration with the Carroll County Arts Council, as Lynn Griffith was able to obtain some grant money for that project. So they will be looking for artists and ideas to submit to the Art Council. And then we will take a peek at whatever they might be at that point. Fall Fest is quickly approaching, starting with the Fall Fest parade September 21st, and the Oyster Stroll is right on the heels of that, October 14th, and the downtown Halloween event and clock tower dedication will be the 21st. So lots of things happening.
All right, thank you very much. And nothing to report of Technology Committee, Mr. Dayhoff. Thank you. Move on now to council comments and discussion. This is an opportunity for council members to share their thoughts or concerns on any other issues. that are not elsewhere on the agenda. Begin with Mr. Kalachi.
I'm good, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kalachi. Mr. Beha.
No report, sir.
All right, thank you. Ms. Gilbert.
I have a couple things, and I forgot to mention that the pool, now that the swim team is not practicing, is having aqua Zumba and aqua fitness. Check the the Parks and Rec for a calendar of when those classes are. But outside of that, I wanted to welcome the Carroll Lutheran's executive staff to downtown. There was a ribbon cutting on July 27th, I believe. The National Night Out was August 1st, and there was like 8 or 9 locations. I think we all had a great time that night. All of the folks in all the neighborhoods did a great job providing children's activities, great food, lots of snowballs. I think there was like 4 snowballs in every single community. It was a lot of snowballs, but it was more many. And I wanted to highlight the Be Kind Action for Kindness on downtown Westminster. It's going to be starting August 22nd to September 25th. So look to vote for your favorite student painted Be Kind sign, and all those funds will be going to Action for Kindness, Boys and Girls Club, Carroll County Arts Council, and Find Your Purpose.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hahn.
Mr. President, I'll just echo the mayor's comments regarding the events related to the storm. I'm just very thankful no one got injured or killed, and this was amazing to watch all the coordination that was happening, both in front of everybody, but also behind the scenes with addressing that issue. And I just appreciate everybody's patience because it's never fun when you have a disruption like that to people's commutes. I'll also just say we had National Night Out on August 1st. Love that event, one of my favorite events of the year. Lots of fun. I will also mention I'm back on the Maryland Municipal League's legislative committee. We've already met twice. We're meeting again on the 31st of this month, and we're working on establishing what the MML's legislative priorities are going to be, and I'll continue to kind of keep you posted on that kind of develops through the process. And just a reminder, we do, if anyone's interested up here, we do have the fall conference happening in mid-October for the Maryland Municipal League as well. That's it, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hahn. And I will just add one thing, and that is congratulations to Mr. Kavacha on being a grandfather.
Grandpa.
And so that will conclude council comments and discussion. Move on now to ordinances and resolutions. We have 2 items before us this evening. First is introduction of ordinance number 2023-08, Water and Sewer Allocation Plan Authority, ordinance of the Mayor and Common Council of Westminster, amending the City of Westminster Code, Chapter 124, Sewers and Sewage, Article 5, Allocations and Extensions, Section 124-22, Allocation Plan, and Chapter 160, Water, Article 1, Potable Water, Section 160-14, Allocation Policy, for the Mayor and Common Council may by resolution delegate the authority to act on applications for water and wastewater allocations to a standing committee of the legislative body. Mr. Depot.
Thank you and good evening. City Code Section 124.22 and 160.14 authorizes the Mayor and Common Council to establish a water and sewer allocation policy by resolution. On March 26, 2018, the Mayor and Common Council adopted the 2018 to 2024 Water and Sewer Allocation Policy and Master Distribution Chart. Over the years, there have been 6 amendments to the allocation policy and the distribution chart. Staff has met with the Economic and Community Development Committee of the ECDC at their June 20th and July 20th, 2023 meetings. Staff introduced an update to the Water and Sewer Allocation Policy and Master Distribution Chart for an initial period of 2023 to 2025. The 2018-24 distribution chart was used as the base for the updated 2023-2025 distribution chart that proposes to remove and rename certain water and sewer allocation categories. and add new water and sewer allocation categories. These revisions are highlighted on page 2 of this report. A primary revision to the updated distribution chart is the inclusion of a general water fund and a general sewer fund category. These general fund categories provide a significant amount of water of unallocated water and sewer that may be transferred to any other specific category in the distribution chart. In an effort to streamline the allocation process, staff recommended that the ECDC or other entity be granted the authority to transfer water and sewer from these general fund categories. At its July 20th, 2023 meeting, the ECDC supported being the authority to transfer water and sewer from the general water fund and sewer fund to help streamline the allocation process. However, following this meeting, it was determined that an entity separate from the ECDC must be delegated the authority to transfer the water and sewer within the distribution chart. Therefore, prior to acting on the proposed 2023 to 2025 policy and distribution chart, the City Code Section 124.22 and 160.14 should be amended to provide the Mayor and Common Council may by resolution delegate the authority to act on applications for water and sewer allocations to a standing committee of the legislative body. As such, staff recommends that proposed ordinance 2023-08 as introduced for consideration be referred to a future Mayor and Common Council meeting for approval. Staff does intend to bring forward a future Mayor and Common Council meeting, a resolution amending the adopted 2018-2014 water and sewer allocation policy and master distribution chart following this introduction of 2308. I'm available for any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Depot. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 2023-08?
So moved, Mr. President.
Thank you. There's been a motion to introduce the ordinance. May I have a second?
I'll second.
And a second by Mr. Hawk. Thank you. All right, any discussion on the introduction?
I just want to thank Mr. Depot and especially Andrea Gerhard. She can talk about this forever for their hard work in doing and working with this water allocation. I think this is something that a lot of people, it's hard to understand. I think it's one of the most complicated things that we do. I just want to say that work does not go unnoticed. And again, thank you for that, for all the information as well that you and Andrea provided about how that chart works.
Thank you.
At that meeting.
Thank you, Mayor. Anyone else?
Mr. President.
Mr. Hoff.
I just wanted to mention, I believe I spoke to everybody individually at one point or the other. One of the goals of this change is to just streamline the process. Because right now, we don't have a big reserve. So when we have to move around, it becomes more complicated and can take time. So we're trying to, again, streamline the process so that if there's a project that it makes sense, that needs some extra water, that we can streamline that process instead of having to come all the way back up to council, which could take, obviously several meetings, depending upon what our agendas are looking like otherwise. So again, just trying to be a little bit more business friendly when it comes to dealing with some of these bureaucratic hurdles. Thank you, Mr. President.
Right, thank you, Mr. Hoff. Anyone else?
Mr. President,
Mr.
I think one thing we probably want to keep in mind, we've come a long way. We didn't even have a policy that long ago. It was completely willy-nilly. We didn't allocate water in any real fashion. It was thoughtful. So I think this is a kind of evolution of that original idea of, hey, look, this is a commodity that's got a tremendous amount of value and we need to treat it like it's money and budget it and plan for it. And I think to Councilman Huff's, of what he just said, it's important that we're very thoughtful and we do this in a way in which it doesn't stifle growth any more than it has to, because it already does a lot as it is, because there's only so much of it. But I think I give staff a tremendous amount of credit because this didn't even exist that long ago. It was certainly a number of us sitting up here on council were around when there was no policy like this. So it's great work, and I know a lot goes into it. Please pass on to Andrew and then yourself, of course, the gratitude for the work that went into this and continuing to move it along. And I suspect this is going to be an ever evolving policy. And, it's never going to be set in stone forever because things change, hopefully for the better.
Yes. And thank you.
Well, Dr. Wack and I were the original water allocation committee.
You were.
And we developed the original policy on this, which, as Mr. Deacon noted, has gone through several iterations now and several refinements, and I think we're getting better at it with a lot of good support from the staff. But, as Dr. Wack used to say, and I think it's something that we always need to bear in mind, that we're going to have water reuse, and that's going to be wonderful. And we're going to have, at some point, we lessen the strain because of that. But, we will always need to treat water as a resource that we allocate, and this will never go away. And so we're always going to continue to have a water allocation policy as long as it's something that the city needs to manage this way. So, and that's going to be forever. So, I'm glad that we're able to continue to refine the system. I think this is a positive step. It basically is codifying, an informal practice that we already have, in that, a committee of the elected body, has been, acting to make these decisions, which the full council later has ratified. But it will streamline that. It will make it happen more quickly. Businesses will be able to make the decisions they need to make, in a more timely fashion. We'll be able to get information to them, sooner. And certainty is what they all need to have as they try to make decisions. So again, it's important that we continue to take these steps to be supportive, of the business community as they try to make these decisions depend on this most precious resource. So with that, we're ready for the vote. On introduction, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes seem to have it. And we will take up the ordinance for adoption in a future meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the next item is introduction of ordinance number 2023-06, Cannabis Overlay District, an ordinance of the Mayor and Common Council of Westminster adopting a sectional map amendment to repeal the former medical cannabis overlay district and designate the boundaries of the new cannabis overlay district for the purpose of establishing the appropriate locations for the designation of cannabis overlay floating zones, permitting the operation of cannabis businesses in the city. Mr. Depot.
Thank you. As you are aware, the Maryland General Assembly passed the Cannabis Reform Act, allowing for the adult use sale of cannabis. On July 1st, 2023, existing Maryland medical cannabis businesses that chose to convert to the new cannabis license under the Cannabis Reform Act are authorized to cultivate, manufacture, or dispense cannabis or cannabis products for consumers 21 years of age. There are 2 medical dispensaries located in the city that have converted their license and began selling recreational cannabis on July 1st, 2023. On July 10th, the Mayor and Common Council approved Ordinance 2023-05, amending the zoning ordinance to add new, delete existing, and amend existing cannabis definitions for consistency with the Maryland Code, to rename Medical Cannabis Overlay District to the Cannabis Overlay District, and to add new, delete existing, and amend existing text for consistency with the Annotated Code of Maryland, and to amend the process and procedures to establish a cannabis overlay district use and to amend the zoning map. With the adoption of Ordinance 2305, the zoning map must now be amended, renaming Medical Cannabis Overlay District to Cannabis Overlay District, which requires a map amendment. At the July 20th ECDC meeting, staff introduced the Cannabis Overlay District boundaries that proposes to replace and reduce the limits of the existing Medical Cannabis Overlay District, while ensuring that the 2 existing cannabis businesses located in the city remain in the new Cannabis Overlay District. This is an attachment 2 of the report. The ECDC supported bringing the draft map amendment for the new Cannabis Overlay District and repealing the existing Medical Cannabis Overlay District to the Mayor and Common Council. So therefore, staff recommends the proposed Ordinance 2306 as introduced for consideration to the Mayor and Common Council be referred to the Planning and Zoning Commission for its review and recommendation to the Mayor and Common Council. That completes my report. I'm available for questions.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Depot. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 2023-06?
Mr. President, I'll make that motion to introduce.
Thank you, Mr. Hoff. There's a motion to introduce. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there a second by Ms. Gilbert? Discussion. Remember, this is for introduction. We'll also be taking this up for further consideration and subsequent. All right. Hearing no discussion this evening, we'll move on to a vote. All those in favor of introduction, ordinance number 2023-06, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Yeah, I seem to have the ayes have it. And we will schedule this for discussion on adoption at a subsequent date. There is no unfinished business of which I'm aware. Does anybody have any unfinished business to bring forward? Hearing none, we'll move on to new business. We have one item under new business. To approval to waive competitive bidding for a good cause under City of Westminster Code, Chapter 36, Procurements and Contracts, subsection 36-4, specific regulations, as a specified unusual circumstance exists warranting such waiver, and that the waiver will not impair the interest and transparency, fiscal responsibility, or good government. The renewal of Arctic Wolf Managed Detection and Response Service through a contract with SHI Incorporated in the amount of $60,781.86. Mr. Moore.
There he is over there. Yes. So the city of Westminster performed a risk assessment in fiscal year 20 that recommended the city contract with a managed detection and response or MDR provider to provide constant monitoring of the city's network and hardware. After a competitive bid process completed by the state of Maryland, Arctic Wolf was selected as the provider of choice. Arctic Wolf does not offer direct purchase and relies on vendors for their resale. SHI is the city's current vendor for other software, and we are satisfied with their service. An MDR service such as Arctic Wolf provides the following to the city: a 24/7 alert and hands-on security team for all hardware and network traffic, a 24/7 hardware segregation from the network that has been compromised, 24/7 review of lateral network spread of malicious software, quarterly review calls and calls as incidents arise, and full forensic investigation and breakdown of all intrusions. This solution, along with our other security products and procedures, keeps us in a layered defense posture, and we're asking to renew this contract for an additional year. The technology department budgeted $60,000 in fiscal year 24 for the service, and the general water and sewer budgets have the necessary funding to renew this contract. Staff recommends approval to waive competitive bidding for good calls under City of Westminster Code, Chapter 36, Procurement and Contracts, subsection 36-5, specific regulations. 36-4, specific regulations, as a specified unusual circumstance exists warranting such waiver, and that the waiver will not impair the interests of transparency, fiscal responsibility, or good government, for renewal of Arctic Wolf Managed Detection Response Service through a contract with SHI Inc. in the amount of $60,781.86. And I'm open for questions.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the waiver?
Motion to approve.
A motion by Mr. Dayhoff. Is there a second? There's a second by Mr. Cavaccio. Any discussion or any questions? Mr. Dayhoff?
I could ask later. Does legit require us to do something like this? I believe it helps in
Yeah, I
our
bet it does.
process with them.
Okay.
Yes.
I bet it does. Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
So, anyone else?
Mr. President, given Mr. Moore's performance since he's come on board, if he thinks this is needed, then I'm all for it.
Yeah.
All right, vote of confidence from Mr. Moore. That's good. I just have one question. I'm certainly in favor of continuing this. You know, yeah, they seem to be doing a very good job, and I get emails from them asking me to complete the courses that I've not yet completed all of, but I'm working my way through them. But if this is on a state, so I'm just a little confused. The state did a procurement.
We did a procurement through the state. This
We
was
did a
state
procurement through the
contract,
state.
right. This is one of the vendors that was on state contract at the time that assessment was done.
Okay, so we can't access this through a state contract.
No, the state contract was in 2020. That's when we got access through it, and now we're using the service.
All right, so we just take it. All right, I understand. All right, thank you. Anyone else have anything? Mayor?
I just want to follow on Councilmember Kabach's comments that perhaps we could have Mr. Moore ask for other items that come up in the budget as well. Given the level of confidence in the chief problem solver.
All right, well, we will leave that to others to decide if they feel like they need that level of support. Anyone else? Right, hearing no further discussion, move on to a vote. All those in favor of approving the waiver, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes see nay, the ayes have it, and the waiver is approved. Move on now to departmental reports. Turn to our city administrator to lead us through that. Ms. Impulse.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to talk for just a few minutes about the storm last week. While 140 is on everyone's mind because that was shocking to see and shocking to experience for those that needed to ride around. We did have quite a few other issues, as Councilmember Gilbert mentioned, throughout the city. And I want to take a moment to thank the police department for their quick response. The moment that it was safe to get out there, there are quite a few collisions, well, a couple of collisions, but quite a few small incidents that happened immediately after the storm hit that were not located on 140. And so I want to thank the police department for their quick response. I also want to take a moment to thank the streets department and Deputy Director Dick for the forethought. They kept some crews aside, held them back, is a way we say that, right? Instead of waiting to call them in, and that was a critical decision to make sure that the moment that they could get out, that they were able to, and also they were able to deal with some of the issues at the streets department itself, the facility itself, because they were located there. That turned out to be an important component as well when we had a tree down on Thursday on Main Street. With the leadership of Mr. Dick and the streets department, we were able to address that in lightning speed. I know it didn't feel that way for those who were trying to travel around Main Street, but it was addressed and taken care of in 5 hours. And for those of you that saw the tree, it was just an enormous undertaking, and we had to call in contractors to help with that. So the team, I think, did an unbelievable job. They worked long hours. We're back in the next morning and had to deal with the aftermath of it for the entire week, and just continue to do so. So I'm personally extremely proud. For those that are listening and those in the room, thank you so much for your efforts. You all did a really great job. I also want to take a chance to thank BG&E. I now have a great contact, and staff has great contacts as well. So at all levels, we have some really good contacts with BG&E, and I want to echo the council that turned out to be a really great partnership. And we have been struggling to get those connections before this event. So that turned out to be a happy coincidence that now we've got really good contacts at BG&E, and we're going to prioritize maintaining that partnership with them. All right, we will move on now. Let's start with the Public Works Department. Mr. Dick, can you tell us a little bit more about the Main Street water replacement project?
Yes, so thank you, Ms. Amos.
Yeah.
So the project will be starting September 14th is the mobilization date. So that week is going to be the start date for that. As everybody's noticing, they're painting up Main Street now for the existing utilities. They've been doing their little site surveys. They officially mobilized yet, but they're looking at everything at a time as well. So they'll move in on the 15th and start their work. The work will be from starting at the Longwell end, and then the 8 phases goes towards PA Avenue. And then there's dates associated with each phase. Some of them are short phases, other ones are longer phases. We'll keep an eye on that as we go through the winter months, weather delays, things like that. We'll make sure that any updates that happen to the schedule that they have given us will get updated and put out to everybody. On that note, we were also finishing up our public notice to start taking around to all the businesses downtown, so we can get that out. Myself and Melissa Thorne from the planning department will be walking around to each individual business or residents handing out flyers at the top. I believe that Mayor and Common Council are going to be involved with that as well a little bit. So hopefully in the next month, we can really get that word out. We'll get it on our website, social media, things like that. So everybody's aware of it. With the notice, they'll be able to see the time frames, the addresses of the affected areas for each phase and when that might happen. While the construction happens, there will always be 2 lanes of traffic. The road will never be shut down. Parking, because that's where the water main runs, we'll keep that as limited as possible, the amount of no parking. All the downtown businesses still have parking out front, as much as possible. Sidewalks themselves will still be open. The only time that there could be some effects on some of them is when the connection is made to the business. They got to find at the curb stop. So wherever that's located, most of room by the curb, plenty of room for them to get by. So we anticipate the sidewalks never to be closed at this point. Once again, if any of this ever changes, we'll make sure that that gets blasted with everything that we have to blast it with, including our speaker system.
And we'll set up a specific page on the website so that that will be the primary way that people can get their information, in addition to all of the ways that Mr. Dick just mentioned.
President Walsh, I just want to thank you and Mr. Dick and the rest of the staff for planning this in a way that will have the least disruption possible for our citizens and traveling through downtown Westminster. It's impossible not to have some disruption, but it's something that absolutely has to be done. And so, I appreciate all the care and thought that's gone into this. I was about a month ago, I was in a town in Wisconsin where the hotel I was staying in was about about a block or so from their main street. And I walked down to the main street to get something to eat at one of the restaurants there. And the main street was completely torn up. Building from the edge of the building to the edge of the building. Sidewalks gone, roadway gone, everything gone, just gravel. As they were replacing water mains, doing exactly what we're doing. But they didn't do it this way. They just tore everything up. And they totally disrupted, that community for several months. It's amazing. I can't believe that they did it that way. But so anyway, that's why having seen that, that's why I appreciate so much what the way we're going about something. It's very wise. And I appreciate all the effort. Mr. Huff, did you have something?
Yeah, I have a question. Miss Immerholz, is it possible that you could send us a rough timeline of where they're starting? And I know that's all subject to change depending on what happens, but just to kind of give us a better sense of how, where they're going to start and kind of what the order is going to be would be helpful in case we get certain questions.
So we're working on Mr. Deck actually put it together is we're calling it a letter. It's sort of like the talking points, etc. We'll have a map on the back side. That's going to be distributed to the business community. We'll post it on our website and we'll make sure that you get it first. The council will get it first. But it has all of the information. So if someone's not able to attend the mayor's meeting, for example, they'll know what's going on. It's very well done, but we're just refining the minor details of that right now. So we'll get that out for you.
That is great. And then one other technical question, just out of curiosity. When we're replacing the water main, the main water main, the laterals as they come into it, are those are all just staying and being rehooked in, or will some of them have to be replaced depending upon the condition, or kind of what is the plan with that? I'm just kind of curious.
Would you want to go ahead and answer that?
So we'll be replacing our responsibilities up to the curb stop. So the shut off valve out in the sidewalk is where we're replacing to.
Okay, you're replacing all the way to where the turn off is. Okay, great.
Yeah, so when that time comes, when we get to that, there'll be definitely conversations with all the business owners. Once we get a time frame of how long that switchover will be, because there will be a downtime that these places won't have water. Most of the time, that's about a half hour to 45-minute period. It could be quicker, once we see how this company works. And
okay, great. Thank you. I was curious about how that part was going to work with a lot of ones. So thank you.
Right.
So Mr. Dick, would there be any advantage to any of the buildings, to the building owners at that time to replace their feed from the valve to into their building? Would that make sense for them to do that at that time? Or is it no real value in that?
So it's gonna be a big cost to them, because the curb stops out by the curb. For them to tear their sidewalk up and replace that line, would be asking a big thing from most of the business owners.
Yeah, only if they would need, so I know sometimes they get pretty filled up with, lime and they get slow and sometimes people have to replace those. I didn't know if that would be a good time to encourage them if they need to replace it anyway, or if it doesn't make any difference.
I don't think it would make a big difference. I would probably rather than not do it while we're doing our job.
There you go. I'm just curious. Yep. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, then they're working at the same. I don't know, maybe they'd be opening something up that makes it easier for a contractor to lay that pipe in at that point.
So in some cases, if we have to cut into the curb or sidewalk, it's gonna be a small,
Okay.
maybe 8-inch cut that we'll have to fill back in. That'll be it. Where if they gotta do all the way to the place that's gonna shut down the sidewalk.
Got it.
Mr. Dick, before you move on to the rest of your report, I just want to let the council know, we're gonna put a cell phone number on the, I don't know what we're calling, the letter, the memo, the correspondence that we're sending around, because the businesses work at various hours and it's not necessarily convenient for them to get a hold of a city employee during a specific time period. We just want to make sure that when there's an issue, that they're able to get a hold of someone, and or when it's more convenient for them. And we also want to make sure that we direct them to a particular phone number, so that they're not randomly calling someone else that doesn't necessarily have all the information. So
That's great. Thank you.
does anyone have any other questions on the water main project? Because I know Mr. Dick has a few other things to cover. Okay, it's yours, sir.
All right, with all the downed trees and everything, it actually started the week before when we had the tree fall on Birdie's Cafe. So it's been quite the week and a half for tree falling. I'll keep it real quick after all this. We're continuing our catch basin repairs, and just a total change in that, we just put up the field goal post in JC Park for the football teams. It's almost time. And that's all I have to do with that.
Are there any other questions for the Public Works Department? Hearing none, we are going to move on to the Recreation and Parks Department. Ms. Gruber?
Good evening. I wanted to take a moment to recap our month of July celebration. We always track our attendance at the events that we host. Sometimes we cross-promote events through other organizations, but the events that we hosted served over 3,000 members of the community throughout the month of July. Our largest attended event was our reptile show with 400 people in attendance per performance. So we consider our month of July a success. Why we really enjoy providing these activities to the community is they're smaller scale events, so they give us a more concentrated effort with the members that we're serving. They're not as big as some of our larger special events, so we get to know our community a little bit better through these. And they are low cost or no cost opportunities for recreation for our city residents. So it certainly is a great joy to continue to offer these events throughout the month of July. And lastly, I just wanted to let you know that we will be assisting the folks that are putting on the kindness stroll. We're going to help them with a little kickoff celebration to celebrate the beginning of the kindness stroll. The kickoff celebration will take place on Thursday, August 24th in Locust Lane from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. There will be live entertainment on the stage, an old-fashioned ice cream social, and some other kindness themed activities that will be going on during that 2-hour stretch. to celebrate the opening of this display of Be Kind signs on Main Street. That concludes my report, unless there are additional questions for me this evening.
The city is also one of the primary sponsors for the kindness stroll as well.
Perfect.
I just wanted to say thanks to Ms. Gruber for, I know it wasn't one of the official stops necessarily on National Night Out, but opening up the pool as a stop for the community that evening. I think that was my first stop of the evening, and I think it was incredibly well attended. I, of course, teach half the lifeguards, but yeah, it was a great event to have that in that community at the pool. And I would encourage that maybe we could add that one in future years as well. So, but thank you for that.
You're welcome. We'd be happy to continue that.
Are there any questions for the recreation director?
Mr. President.
Mr.
Quickly, I don't know if you saw it on Channel 45. They did a pretty nice piece on the kindness folks the other day. I don't know if you're planning on following that up about this event or anything, but obviously they're starting to get some good attention, with this program. So I'm glad that we're part of it. And I think it's the right thing for us to do. They're huge supporters of the community. I think they bring a lot of positive energy into the community for what they're doing. The two of them, they do a great job, and we're lucky to have them here, in my opinion.
Any other questions or comments for the recreation department? Hearing none, we will move on to the finance department. Ms. Rogers.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Inhofe. I believe last time that we met, we talked a little bit, and a question was asked about audit services for the city. So since we've last met, we posted an RFP on Emma, which is the email and marketplace advantage site, which is a procurement site for government entities. So that was posted on 8/2, bids are due on 8/23, and questions are due back on 8/16. So that's moving along. And the finance department is preparing as we speak for that audit and getting ready so that we're ready earlier this year. From an HR department, we have a large group of hires starting on the 15th this week. Thank you to Mr. Moore and his team for getting us set up to do that orientation. Normally we have a couple people, but we have a large group starting. And despite that, we still have some ads up for other positions. So those interested can go to westminstermd.gov/jobs to look for those and apply online. And open for any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Ms. Rogers? Hearing none, we will move on to the planning department, which has been extraordinarily busy this summer.
Thank you,
Mr. Depot.
Thank you. On July 20th, the Planning and Zoning Commission conditionally approved site development plan S-2244 to construct a 15,000 square foot one-story office warehouse building with a contractor's equipment storage yard for Northeastern Supply located along Magna Way. And yes, this was brought up last meeting. They are currently located in the city, but they lease that location. This they will actually own. So that's the purpose of the move and new construction. Planning and Zoning Commission also conditionally approved site development plan S-21-3 to construct a 40,000 square foot office building for the state's attorney's office at 209 Greenwood Avenue, Westminster, Maryland. On August 1st, the Board of Zoning Appeals approved updates to its rules and procedures. Some of the primary revisions were to the application submission requirements, essentially requiring more detailed information necessary for Board of Zoning Appeals to make a decision at the beginning, at the initial submission, versus as it is today that occurs weeks after. It's very, very odd. That certainly helps out staff in the BZA as well as we move forward. And also with the public hearing order of evidence, they're requiring that the applicant initially present versus staff presenting initially. So those are the two primary changes to the rules. On August 2nd, the Historic District Commission held a work session prior to its regular meeting to discuss the ongoing planning of the nation's 250th anniversary. And then at its regular meeting, the Historic District Commission conditionally approved a Section 106 review for modifications to the telecommunication equipment at 41st Street, located on and around the city's water tower, whereby the replacement of the antennas could not increase in height. And that concludes my report.
Are there any questions for Mr. Depot? Hearing none, we will move on to the Information Technology Department, where Mr. Moore has been spending some time teaching us some important things on the staff side. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Moss. Yeah, so one of the things I've been pushing right now is some training classes for our employees. We started with protecting our data as far as protected personal information, protected health information, encryption, and what we can do both at work and at home to protect ourselves and our data from all the bad people that try to do those things with our data. We've now branched into some application training as well. We hosted our first OneNote and Teams training last week. And our approach and my approach is, we own a lot of technology. I want to embrace what we own and get our money's worth out of it. We're paying for it. And if it can help someone do their job better, easier, then we want to promote that and give them the training to actually use those skills. Our help desk has been very busy, almost matched the numbers of June, but July came in right behind. We've seen a higher engagement with our GIS department as people are starting to see, I think, a lot more benefit now to the stories that maps can tell in both project plans or just to identify sites or things for meetings and discussions. So that's really good. We continue to engage our state and federal resources, growing those relationships and providing insight to them. We're trying to get more information from them and to them so we can both grow our technology and hopefully save some money in the long run with some of the offerings that they will offer in the future. And just another shout out to everyone around the storm. From our side of things, we didn't miss a beat. Our equipment stayed online, the lights stayed on, generators kicked in where they're supposed to, our battery backups worked. We didn't have any downtime. And a big shout out to the helicopter pilot that was stringing live from a helicopter. I've never seen that before, and that was pretty cool. So
Streaming live, oh, wow.
yeah.
So the Information Technology Department helps with the water main letter correspondence. The back of it has a map on it that was prepared by the GIS department. We've been trying to work GIS into as many problem solving and narrative telling opportunities that we can, because they are able to do that in a very visual way. That's helpful. And then the OneNote and Teams training sounds so minor, but this is an opportunity that is really an efficiency factor for the other departments. So in my department, in the rec department, and some other departments, we are now using this software that we've always had in a way that we were doing, via paper or, really archaic versions of just trying to get things done. And now we're doing it in a much more collaborative way using the software that we already have. So it's, Mr. Moore has brought a lot to the city. But just the conversations that we're able to have amongst all the departments, those ongoing conversations are really, we're seeing some efficiencies internally. And I think that's just gonna, did you want to jump in?
So go ahead, when you're done.
That's gonna open up capacity for us in other ways. And it just also just helps, I think, the continuity sometimes when a staff member leaves or something, or we have to move them off a project onto another project. We've got all these things in a clear and easy way. And Mr. Moore's even looking at ways to back up some things that we hadn't thought of. There's a lot of efficiencies that have been improved in the last 2 weeks from just minor training at the staff level. So that's the kind of thing that council doesn't necessarily hear about all the time because it's so small. It's a product we already had. It's part of Microsoft software, but we didn't think about it that way because we're so busy in the weeds of trying to get everything done and having the information technology department at the table thinking things through. Hey, I think we might already have something that could help you out there. And then leading the training to get us there, game changer for everyone. So thank you, Mr. Moore. Ms. Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Imholson and Ms. Moore, I just want to say I'd like to applaud you for using a technology that we have already instead of seeking something new. I think a lot of times corporations, businesses, nonprofits will jump to a new technology if they see it because it looks fancy and everyone has to relearn, or learn a different type of technology. And I believe there may be some interest on council for the same sort of information concerning
Some training?
OneNote and et cetera. So training for that. So maybe we could coordinate something like that in the future.
Absolutely.
Are there any questions for the Information Technology Director? Hearing none, we will move on to the Police Department. Chief Blackwell?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. On the 28th of this month, I'm going to be attending a special Maryland Chiefs of Police Association and Maryland Sheriff Association joint meeting. It's being held at the Laurel Police Department. The Maryland Attorney General, Anthony Brown, will be there to discuss legislation that goes into effect October 1st regarding review and potential prosecution of police officers for violations of law, from use of force incidents, fatal traffic collisions, things of that nature. So there's going to be a change in protocol, and we're going to have discussions to try to understand how that's all going to work out. So be attending that on the 28th. We offered 2 new dispatchers jobs, which brings our communications division up to full staff. So that's good. A lot of the new hires going through orientation are our police recruits. We have 1 that we already hired, and we're bringing on 4 more beginning this week, and they're all scheduled to start the police academy with the sheriff's office on September the 15th. And we're hoping to get, we reserved 7 slots in the academy, so we're hoping to get those additional 2 positions filled prior to this academy. And we're working on the background investigations and the other steps to get that done. That's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
Questions for the police chief? Mr. President, that concludes the departmental reports.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Impulse. The final item on our agenda is citizen comments, where we invite the public to address the mayor and council on any issues that pertain to tonight's agenda or any other city issues. For citizens not attending the public meeting, we invite you to send us your comments or concerns via email at comments@westminstermd.gov. All comments received by email will be shared with the mayor and council. Commenters should include their address and phone number with their comments or their emails. We'll now invite comments from anyone who is present this evening. Ask anyone who's with us tonight, wish to be heard, to please give us your name and address for the record. Is anybody here wish to be heard? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, hi, my name is Kathleen Morales. You asked my address,
Yes, please.
741 Mulligan Lane, in the Vertical subdivision, 21158. I have a question. I'm looking for assistance regarding enforcement of existing codes. My issue is regarding a light pollution, like nuisance glare issue, that's I'm unable to resolve with the neighbor, the HOA that's responsible for it. So I'm hoping, I've looked at the code myself, but you know, it's subject to some interpretation sometimes the way the code's written. But it looks like they are in violation, that the light is too bright, there are no glare guards on the fixture. I'm hoping there's someone whose job it is to help me interpret this and then to go about, you know, tell me what my next steps are. How do I enforce it? I don't want to become litigious over this, but I'd like the use of my property back. So is there someone that you can?
Sure, we can talk with you after Mr. Depot.
Mr. Depot,
Yes.
okay, great, thank you.
Sure, thank you. Anyone else wish to hear? Yes, sir.
Yes. So I'm Greg Wentz. My address would be PO Box 11. And I'm here representing the Westminster Municipal Band tonight. And I'm here on a couple things, just giving an update on how we've been surviving this past year. But first and foremost, I want to invite everybody to our Belgrove Square concert, which is coming up on Sunday, August 27th at 6 p.m. up in Belgrove. We do that annually. And a couple things. We're also very glad that we were chosen again to be a proud partner at the Fall Fest. So a lot of our members will be helping in the ticket booth again. So when you come buy tickets, you'll see Westminster Band folks, and they're representing all 4 nights. And we're very happy to do that. It's a great, great combination between us and the city. And just give you an update on how our year's been going. We've been very busy in July. We did 5 performances in 5 days around 4th. We went to Sykesville for their parade this year. We went to Catonsville and have a grace during that fourth. And this year new, we did something in Cadorus Park 3 weeks ago. We did a concert at Cadorus. We had a great crowd, and the folks up there who run that show said that was the biggest crowd they've gotten all summer for a concert. So we got very great comments on our sound and stuff. So I was very happy to hear that. And we just got a lot of things coming up, and we've been averaging around 35 members per performance, and we've got 6 or 7 new members this year. So it keeps growing. And I'm thankful to say it's not actually official yet, but I think we did come to terms on a new lease with the Westminster Fire Company on our building at 40 John Street. And it's haven't seen the paperwork yet on it, but in talking with the president of the fire company, he said that their board went ahead and accepted a new 10-year lease for us in that building. So hopefully that comes together and we can continue to stay there, because it's a great place for us to be. So and other than that, our website is westminstercommand.com. Our schedule's on there and everything. So feel free to get on there and check us out. So thank you for the opportunity.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. White. I think I speak for all of us from we're very proud of the band, and we see the activities you have all around the state, and the band is one of the best ambassadors that the city has.
Thank you.
Promote the city as well as bring a lot of goodwill and enjoyment to people around the state. So thank you very much for all the good work that you want to do. And of course, we always love marching with you.
All right.
The city parades. Mayor?
I don't think I can say it any better than what Councilman Peckberry just said. I have never lived in a place before that had a municipal marching band. I haven't missed a concert at Belgrove Square. It's one of my favorite things at the end of the summer. I usually would bring family down from Hanover. I'm like, you have to hear this. And I live walking distance to it.
Okay.
So it's just a wonderful evening. And so that's all I want to say. Mr. Pecoraro, sum that up. Very proud to have you in the city.
We're the worst attraction in the parade unless we're directly behind you. Otherwise, we have to be near you guys. We suck.
It's always good in the Christmas parade.
That's right.
To be with them.
Mr. President, what time is the concert on the 27th?
6 o'clock.
6.
Yeah, yes. And just one other thing real quick. Thank you very much for the support you give us, the grant every year.
Absolutely.
It's a great support for us, because of course we have bills too we have to pay, so that comes in very handy. And the other thing I just wanted to mention, we did put out our new uniforms this year. We came across the new summer uniforms for us. So it's an actual a uniform shirt where we don't wear the coats, and it had
We hope you're much more comfortable.
it had the Westminster patch on it,
Yeah,
and so it looks very good. And we started that actually at the 4th of July parades. We debuted our new summer apparel, so it was a hit, I think.
Great. And we've done our best to get Mr. Dale to stop bothering.
Well, he's can't do without him. Great support.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything? Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Well, that almost concludes our agenda. Just one sad note I'm sorry to leave us with, and that is, I think many of us heard the passing of the county's economic development director, longtime development director, Jack Liburn. City's worked with Jack for many years, and I know that we're all very sorry to learn his passing, and certainly send our sympathies to his family and all of his colleagues in the county. And that concludes our agenda and the meeting. Our next meeting will be Monday, August 28th. With that, without objection, we are adjourned. Yep. That's okay. No.
No, I do.
I ordered my ticket.
Oh,